So in this movie, we are going to lay things out in preform, but before we did that, I wanted to mention a couple of things. First off, the cockpit, unless you want it textured as the wood texture, does not need to be textured as part of this. And the wings are a little bit of a special case. I figured this out later. If you use the UV shells to click on them, you're going to find that it's not necessarily going to work like you want. And these pins are going to have to be cleared out. And these are all going to have to be painted manually. That's the bad news. The good news is it's not as big a problem because symmetry, fortunately, will work here. So I can go to my displacement. Of course, got to make sure I'm on the right one. Go to my left wing geodisplacement and paint these out. And interestingly, it will also paint out on the right wing displacement as well. I do want to change my strength to 100, although you can if you have the time. I'm using my mouse and I'm giving it a quick once over. You can go back in and you don't have to paint with 100% strength, or if you're painting with a tablet, that will actually work very, very well. But you will want to take out this displacement for this particular pin. Okay. And then we'll want to grab this pin and definitely pull that all out. And I'm going to give it a little bit extra because I know that there is an actual ledge on that pin that will hide this. I can pull it back in as I need to. Okay. So and as I said, you can see that symmetry works. Pull that back around. And again, I just want to get it so that that pin will fit up in there. That's all I need to do. And once I've done that, the rest is simply a matter of exporting. That looks about right. Of exporting these two pieces. Export selection just like we did before. And now I will pause while I bring up preform, because preform doesn't quite fit into this and I need to change my screen capture just a touch. Okay, and now we're in preform, and as you can see, it's a bit of a different interface. This part down here is what's really important. If I were to create and go to a new file, let's say, it would give me this little dialog box, which is basically the way it sets up the print to begin with. And basically you're going with layer thickness versus high resolution. 0.05 is going to give us a really, really smooth model. In fact, you won't be able to see layers in this. The material is going to be, we're going to use gray rosin, and it's generally going to be version 2. If your rosin has a version of the code in the front, basically, and you can click on this to identify it. It's very, very user-friendly here, and click apply. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to open, and I'm going to go to that plane part. And I'm going to go ahead and do everything except the gear, the wheel, everything except the cockpit. I'm going to wind up deleting some of this, and that's okay. And I'll go ahead and click open. And it's going to come in very small. It's going to take a moment to load. I'll go ahead and pause it while it's loading. Okay, so when it's really small, you'll get this dialog box. Basically, use the defaults, because we're going to scale this up anyway. Now, I happen to know that a pretty good scale to begin with is 3.25. Whatever you use, remember it. 3.125. Whatever you use, remember it, because that is going to be, anytime if you need to reprint for some reason, that is going to be what you're going to use. All right, so basically, the tools are very similar to Maya. I'm option middle mouse dragging to move things around. I can basically select by marquee selecting, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've scaled it to 3.25. That works. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to rotate everything. And I'm going to go ahead and orient it, let the machine pick how it wants to orient, because what it's going to do, it's going to take into account the fact that this piece is hollow and make it so that everything drains properly. And it will make it so that it prints, it basically will orient these pieces so that they print optimally for our purposes. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lay these out. And I'm going to layout select it, and it's going to tell me that it can't do it. There's too much, there's too many pieces here. And that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete the landing gear, and I'm going to print them separately. Okay, now obviously that's happening, so click OK, and I'm going to select the landing gear, and I'm just going to hit the delete key, and the wheels as well. Now, option, click and move. Now, let's try that again. We'll lay out all and see what we get. Okay, so that gives me a pretty good layout. The last thing I'm going to do is these controls right here will take you back to various views if you so choose. I'll go ahead and select everything, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do supports. Again, almost everything is going to require support, so just go ahead and get in the habit of generating them as is. And I'll go ahead and pause it. Okay, and you can see what these are looking like. You can see kind of how they work. I'll go back to home. And basically what it does is add the rosin tank. This is the build plate, and this fits down into the rosin. And then as it raises, it's basically going to moving down oriented toward the model. This literally kind of is extracted and pulled from the rosin. It's very interesting to watch. It's very interesting to watch happen in quickly. It's actually kind of slow and plodding to watch, but it does a very, very good job. And with these settings, this will print, and you will see details, the details that it's captured here. When you deselect, that's actually what the rosin looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this file, and I'll go ahead and save it to the references folder. And I'll save it as, you can't see it, it's off screen, but I'll save it as plain body wings, and it will save it as a .form file. Okay, and I'll create a new file, and I will go ahead and import, I'll go ahead and open, it doesn't import, it opens, and I'll go to my plane parts, 33 plane parts, and I will grab the gears and the right wheel and the left wheel geometry and open them. They'll come in very, very small, and it'll ask me the same question. I'll go ahead and pause this. Okay, it's giving me the use millimeters. Yes, I want to use millimeters. First thing I'll do is scale this up. And again, 3.25 is what we used before, so make sure you hit 3.25 here and hit return. We'll do the exact same thing. We'll orient them the way they want to be oriented. And then we'll lay them out the way they, to the optimal point of view, and it will go to the hinge side. I can move this back onto the field if I so choose, and then I will generate selected. By the way, clicking on this button takes you back to the home view. You can see these. Another thing that's very interesting I should point out is this little slider right here. The way this little slider does is it works. This is basically how it builds from the plate. So it's going to grab the supports, and it's going to get these pieces, and then it's going to start to build these individual parts, and you can see how it goes. Now, the one thing you do have to watch out for is anything where something just appears in midair with no support generated. That's usually a bad thing. Down here, you'll see the amount of material that it's going to use, the number of layers it's going to use, and its print time. And frankly, it does a pretty good job of estimating the print time. So basically, the volume of about 20 milliliters of volume, figure 1 liter of gray rosin is about $150, so you can figure a price per milliliter. And the number of layers, basically, that's by how thick the individual layers are. And but once you've got that done, I'll go ahead and save this. I'll save this part as gear and wheels. I'll call it plain gear and wheels. and I'll save it to the reference folder. Actually, I will append 36 to that so that we know that that's what it is. And I'll create a new file. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file, but the difference being that now I'm going to give it clear. And I'll give it O2 because that's what I've got. And this I'll print at 0.5 and click apply. And I'll open the cockpit file. Use millimeters, and we'll do the same thing. We'll scale it 3.25 and orient it and put our supports. And yeah, when you click off of it, you can see that it kind of gives it that, it's not clear, but it does work. And it will ignore the faceting because it does print quite smooth. And then we'll save this as, no, we don't need to lay it out. Save this as plain, whoops. Plain cockpit. And I'll go ahead and call this 36 underscore, and you'll see that, and I'll append plain body and wings and plain gear and wings to 36. And once we've done that, we're pretty much done. So in this lesson, in this course, we've started from basically a simple drawing. We've created a model that and textured it and modeled it in such a way that it can be assembled. You will still need to do some sanding, but by deleting the displacement map in those areas, it will actually minimize that. And lastly, we went through how to print it on a Form+1 3D printer in Preform, which is that custom software. And I've had a blast presenting this course, and I look forward to doing more courses in the future.